There is a trend on YouTube that I am not the biggest fan of, and I don't mean to come across as holier than thou or better than the channels I'm about to mention. In fact, I'm a big fan of several of these channels, but a trend that is very prominent on YouTube and slightly worrisome to me is this overly critical to the point of ridiculousness culture. Basically finding views, finding subscribers, and a core base in making fun of and exaggerating the flaws in a given movie, book, whatever. The most prominent example of this is obviously CinemaSins, and I am a very large fan of CinemaSins. I've been watching their content for years, but there's a disconnect where I think and I know a rather large portion of their audience takes what they say seriously. They don't realize CinemaSins is joking, exaggerating, it's parody. And there are many channels that fall into a similar category. This aura of just talking down on and crapping on any piece of media they come across or you come across. And once again, these channels are parody, and I'm totally okay with that. What I'm criticizing is definitely not the channel's fault. It's the audience, which as a creator is certainly something you're not supposed to say. But you see their over-exaggerated, hypercritical magnifying glass bleeding into real life, real world people's opinions because they think it's legitimate. Obviously, these are younger people, and the message I'm sending into this video is maybe for younger people or people who just don't quite get the joke. Basically, there are 3 levels in the most basic way to look at this for review. There is an overly nice review, people who are afraid to criticize something harshly, something I got over very early on in my booktube career, most notably with Name of the Wind. That was the book I kind of decided, you know what, I'm not going to say I like it because people are saying they're liking it, I'm just going to go all out. And since then I've given brutally honest reviews, mostly positive because I don't really read things I don't like. I put them down. I'm not going to waste my time talking about them. I want to talk about good books, things I like, so you can enjoy them, but that doesn't mean I'm being dishonest, it just means I'm filtering. So I guess you could argue I fall in the overly nice, but I like to think I'm definitely more in the middle. I just don't talk about the things I'm gonna trash because I don't see it as constructive. There are other people in this more middle ground, the legitimate criticism ground, that are great at what they do. My favorite example would be Red Letter Media. I think these guys are some of the best film critics I've ever seen, and the fact that they deliver their reviews so casually, so funnily, and are always backing up what they're saying with fact and honest opinion, I really enjoy. I actually have thought about trying to get a similar format going for books, but I'd need to get more people involved who live near me, who are good on camera and willing to spend hours recording videos on the weekends. Not an easy checklist to fulfill, especially when I don't know where I'll be living in a year. And then there's the final category, what I really want to talk about here. The hypercritical to the point of parody review. And this is fine. I have no problem with this category. I subscribe and enjoy the jokes, looking at films I love being torn to pieces as a form of hyperbole. But if you look at this genre, there are similar red flags across it to let you know you're looking at this form of hyperbole. Usually they're just nitpicking incredibly small details. There's no talking about the overarching problems. There's no continuity from scene to scene. It's direct character choices, immediate little nitpicks, just kind of that immediacy for the joke, which you need for this format to thrive. You can't make a joke about a many hour long or a sprawling issue in a movie or book. So if you ever have trouble distinguishing between the two, look for that. Look for just, oh, they're nitpicking how one little tiny thing is, and there's no actually big deal here. Notice I never said this isn't legitimate criticism. Little nitpicks are actual legitimate criticism, and if a movie or book has a ton of little nitpick problems, those can add up. And I think that's where the line gets blurred for some people. Some people have a very hard time distinguishing between something that has a few nitpicky little problems you can go at, something that has a large number of nitpicky problems you can go at, something that has just big problems, or a combination of the latter two. That is usually just a bad piece of media. Now, the reason I feel the need to talk about all of this is because I very much so believe these joke channels are being taken seriously way too often, and this hypercritical culture is now bleeding into mainstream legitimate reviews. It's actually harder to make it as a reviewer on this platform if you give more middle-of-the-ground reviews. You have to have a very high consistent quality here, which, just look at my last video, I don't always have, and I don't expect to make it as a very large reviewer. But I don't like seeing some reviewers who stick to that more middle of the ground. I've seen other booktubers and a few movie reviewers kind of get called boring or lazy because they're not doing this little thing by nitpick review. Some people now crave that. They want to see all the little problems and whatever they're about to watch or read or listen to or whatever, and they consider that a legitimate criticism, not a more analytical, thought out, broad picture examination of whatever they are looking at. And honestly, if that's the kind of review you sincerely like and you only want to watch things that can't be hyper nitpicked, good luck. You can watch some Kubrick films and a few others. That's about it. For most people, just try to distinguish better between the two. Recently, I've had a spike in comments telling me to rip books apart or just go all out on them. That doesn't really serve a purpose. I don't want to just attack a piece of art someone spent years working on in an overly critical, harmful way. For movies, I feel like you have a little more leniency to do that. There's a whole team involved there. There's multiple steps. You're not more attacking one person. With a book, it can really feel like you are. There's an author, maybe an editor or two, and some publishers. That's it. That's your target, and it feels a little mean, especially for maybe not the most successful authors, to do that. Even fairly acclaimed authors, let's use Brent Weeks as an example, he spent years writing books that, yes, some of them I have problems with. I think the Night Angel trilogy is fairly shallow for the reasons I stated in my review, but I think I gave a fair review of that trilogy, or maybe there's more books, I forget, but it was honest. If I just kind of went through and nitpicked maybe every little cringy thing or inconsistency or overpowering your main character, Mary Sudom, it would just be offensive in my mind, in the sense of attacking someone's work when I could do no better myself. And this leads into a larger thing where I don't review authors who contact me asking me to review their up-and-coming books or their lesser-known stories, because even then I feel a little harsh going in and attacking what they're making, because a critical review from me that's negative, which I'm sorry, a large majority of them will be because these authors don't have experience yet, it can be actually harmful to their potential and future because people will hear their name and my negative review, and that can really hamper someone who's just starting up. For example, if Kitty G, back when she shouted me out and gave me my first 1,000 subs, had instead said some really negative things, pulled my worst examples from my videos, and just said, don't subscribe to this Daniel guy, I would not be on this platform. That 1,000 subs got me to really continue going and be encouraged to get better. If I took the cinema sins mentality and started hammering books from maybe middle to even lesser known authors, I would just feel like a bully. Once again, I want to reiterate, not a criticism of CinemaSins. That is a very different thing they're going for there. With big movies and studios involved, not the same level of criticism. They are a parody channel and it's very clear, but with the blurring of lines some people seem to be struggling with, I don't want to carry that back into BookTube and be extremely harsh towards people who have very personal connections to what they are creating. I do think in the future I will start finishing more books I dislike and give honest analytical reviews of those books, but they're not ever gonna be this parody type review. Doing a parody review of a book, it just seems wrong to me, and I could be totally off base. I'm just not a fan of doing it. So that's the broader picture here. If you've noticed recently in my videos, I've been rethinking how I review, what my future reviews I want to do more of, and there's been kind of less reviews recently because while I'm reinventing my process, I don't want to put out something now that in a week I'll regret. I do think after all this being said, I'm going to be a little harsher going forwards just because I think I've been a little nice in the past. I know I just gave a big praising review of Mistborn, but that's a really honest one. There's a few I wish I'd been harsher harsher, including Night Angel trilogy. I love Brent Week's other works, the Lightbringer series, but the Night Angel trilogy, I should have been a little rougher on that. And even my harshest review, Name of the Wind, there's a few problems I didn't bring up because I was afraid of the fan base and the backlash, a lot of which I actually did see after that video was released. I've gotten emails from people demanding I remove my videos, which I just find funny. If you're an adult who's that offended by someone else's opinion on a work that's not even yours, good luck in the future. Anyway, y'all, that's all I have to say about this. It's just a clarification of how I do what I do and what I'll be doing in the future a little more and why I never will do that overly harsh, just nitpick type of review. I hope this didn't come across as overly preachy or me on a high horse. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you want to support what I do here, and get ready for an amped up pace of book reviews because I have actually a couple in my back catalog, believe it or not, including Ringworld, which will be next. Get ready for some classic sci-fi, that's coming as well, and the Dresden Files, as well as more Game of Thrones reviews. Yes, the guy who keeps commenting with Jaime Lannister's as his username, I'm doing that. Don't worry, it's happening. Just wait maybe like a month and I'll be there. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.